Hi everyone, my name is Arslan with Elite Residential Drafting and Design. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to be showing my workflow on how to go from a Chief Architect 3D model all the way to Twinmotion and create absolutely amazing renderings for your clients, and also with the help of AI, how to do post-processing. Alright, so here I am in Chief Architect X17. Here's the 3D model that I'm working with. I modeled a 2-bedroom small cabin, and the vision here is it'll be out in the woods somewhere. We'll have some gravel for parking. We'll have a little patio space, maybe with a couple of chairs that people can sit in and watch the sunset or something. And then we'll just have vegetation all around, so maybe bushes, flowers, trees and stuff just to cover our horizon. I actually went one step further and actually modeled my batten wall. So these are actual 3D sort of battens, just to get the real look of that wall type. But you don't have to if you're using a different texture or a different wall type. This is just for me to get closer to that realism. I went ahead and I modeled the 3D battens, but you could just as easy just use a wood texture, whatever your finish type is really. So that's basically the 3D model, and just to show you, the floor plan just looks like this. So feel free to pause the video if you want to replicate something like this, or maybe you're just watching this just to learn, so keep watching, I guess. But if you really want to follow along, here is the full plan essentially, and you can see the lighting placement and the outlets and everything in here as well. And there's the patio, and here is the gravel sort of base, and then just the perimeter of our vegetation. So if you have all of this ready to go, or if you're just watching, we're ready for our next step, which is to actually export this model as a 3ds file that can be used in Twinmotion. So let's learn how to do that. All right, so just how do we actually go about exporting this 3D model into Twinmotion? Before we do the export, always make sure that the layers that you want are the ones that are going to get exported. Do not export any layers that would actually slow down the rendering in Twinmotion. So any extras that you don't need, remove them, or just don't take those layers. So for example, for me, I'm not taking any of the framing. So like if you come here and you use framing, for example, roof trusses, you can see I actually do have the truss is already built and everything is ready to go in the software, but there's no point in me taking this. It'll just slow down my computer. So I turned it off. So the only thing that's going are the light fixtures, the doors, the walls, and the 3D geometry that only I require for this specific rendering. All right, so that is done and out of the way. So here's the process on how to export this the correct way. Make sure you go to File, Export, and go to Export 3D Model 3ds. And you can use the trunk texture names to format or not, doesn't really matter. But let's export this into a place. So I'll just call it YouTube, tutorial Twinmotion, just for the sake of naming things. All right, so just like that, within maybe 10-15 seconds, your whole model is exported. So the next section, we're actually going to see how we actually import this into Twinmotion and start working on our rendering. So here I am in Twinmotion. When you open Twinmotion, maybe you're presented with a home page, but as soon as you hit new project, this is sort of the environment that you're going to find yourself in. All right, and you're not going to do anything with this. All you're going to do is you're going to go to the Import tab right here at the bottom, and here it's asking you to say click here to import file or create datasmith direct link. So here's what to note: if you have SketchUp and if you have Revit, and I believe even Rhino has this, you can actually create a direct link from those softwares into InMotion, so it'll actually update as you work on your project there. Chief Architect, unfortunately, does not have this option. So regardless, even with those offers, this method works just fine. You want to hit the plus icon, and the first tab is geometry. There's direct link, animation, landscape, point cloud. All of these, they're more advanced. I'm not going to cover anything else. Our focus for this video is we're going to import the geometry. So we're going to hit open, and we're going to select the 3ds file that we had previously exported from Chief Architect. Once we open that, you're going to be presented with a couple of these options, and they might be hidden, so just hit this icon to expand. You want to keep hierarchy, basically keep everything as this, and you can do two-sided geometry if you want, and hit import. So depending on how big your model is, this could take a while, or it might not take that long. And you can see we're starting to populate the whole 3D model. So let's give it another minute or so it imports the whole model for us. Perfect. All right, so with that, our model is fully loaded. And you can kind of already see. So how to navigate Twinmotion is you want to use E to go down, Q to go up, W to move forward, S to move back, and then if you hold your right button on your mouse, you can kind of pan and look over, and the scrolling wheel will obviously zoom in and zoom out, and the left just lets you kind of pivot on that point, the left click on your mouse. But anyways, so the very first thing you want to do when you load your geometry is actually create the scene. So before even I get into that, I'm literally just gonna, and you can see this here, we actually have a starting ground and starting landscape and all that, and starting base. I'm gonna actually select the starting base and just delete it because we don't need it. We have our own, like if we go outside, you can see we have our own vegetation that's come through, the gravels come through, our patties come through, everything is there. We don't really need this thing, but I would keep the starting ground and I would kind of align it with our grass, and we'll try to match this in a second here. And you have your starting landscape. Again, I don't need this. I'm just going to delete this, and we just see our horizon there. That's fine. So that's basically what you have. You have your starting ground, and then you have your 3D geometry that you imported. And as you expand through, you can actually go select everything that is within that subcontainer. So let's go to ambience and set a couple of settings here for us. So we'll use the dynamic sky for this. You do have an option to use HDRI, which are basically like these HDRI environments down here on the left side of the screen. You can pick any of the sun settings. They're basically like images that'll come in, and they will be the ones giving you the lighting for your scene. So for example, there's a bunch of these options here, but I'm not gonna make this super complicated. The intent with this whole tutorial is to keep it nice and simple and quick. So we'll keep it to dynamic sky. Time of day, maybe we want to go for some later afternoon kind of scene. So this one kind of looks fine. And you have an option for north offset. So I'll kind of, maybe I'll keep the north pointing that way. So the sun is kind of over here somewhere just setting. That's fine. Then some other settings you have is you have appearance, intensity, so you can bring down the intensity, the temperature, and all that. The sky, all of these, you can mess around with it. The only thing I'm going to change here is I'm going to have volumetric clouds, and we will just kind of take this up a notch a little bit just so we get a couple of clouds, and just do random seed, and that'll just randomize the clouds and everything for you, and everything will look fine. So honestly, for this, I'm happy with these settings for my scene at least, so that's fine. So now we're actually going to go ahead and go to the location that we actually want to render. So I would really like to render just the kitchen space here. So I'm going to come down a little bit here and kind of put myself in a nice location. So I think this is a good location for me. So you're going to go to media, and you're going to hit the plus icon to just create your first image. So that's our first image. We're just going to click the three dots, we'll rename it, and I'll just say kitchen. interior render. So that's one location that I want to export out as a render. The next one that I really want to do is something like this right here. Okay, so we'll do another image, and this one I'm just going to rename it to be an exterior render, and I will just say this is the front, right? Exterior render front. That's fine. So for this scene right here, so once all that is set, you're good. The next step we're gonna so basically what we've done so far is we've imported our geometry, we've set some groundwork, and we've set our cameras, and now the next step is gonna be we're gonna look into our materials and lighting. So I'll see you in the next section. Okay, so now that we've created the two views that we're really interested in rendering, now we can basically change our settings on how we want to render them. So for the camera, I'm actually going to use 28 millimeters for my focal length. So it kind of zooms into this whole area. And you'll probably notice I deleted the two stools that we had here because I want to use something from the library here instead of what Chief Architect had. So let's do this for the scene, and some of the other things that you could probably edit in the camera are things like auto exposure, white balance, and all that. And all these things we can kind of adjust later on. For render, you can use standard or lumen. I think if you have a path tracer on, then you would just use path tracer. So I'll just leave things as they are because we're going to optimize everything later on anyways. And we'll switch to accurate shadows. Everything else is fine as is. And for FX, this is sort of like post-processing again. We can play around with that later. And for image, full HD is fine. All these settings are usually okay. For environment, if you want to mess around with the timing and all that, you can do that here. And the sky. Basically, this is similar to that whole ambient scene that we already created. So we've kind of already done that work. We're happy with those settings. And if you move in the scene or you quit media mode and you've moved around somewhere in the scene and you're like, oh, this is not what I want, you can just click back and the camera will readjust to that. All right, so don't fret about that. So now that we've kind of gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and start messing around with our materials. So the eyedropper is your friend here. Use the eyedropper and select any material that you want to kind of adjust or maybe replace. So this is the cabinet material that I've got, and quite honestly I'm happy with the way it kind of looks, but something I would probably look at is it's 100% rough, so you could probably bring that down to like maybe 70% just so that it's not as rough, but that's how you would go around and change those settings. Let's zoom in a bit. I'm just going to quit the media mode so I can kind of freely move in and around a little bit. And let's say we want to change the color of these handles on the cabinets, for example. So I'm just going to use a dropper to select it. And first of all, they shouldn't be so rough. So I'm just going to bring the roughness to almost 0, or 0 in this case. And then I want them to be metallic. So let's turn them to metallic, and you can see they already look so much better. But I want to actually give them a black color so they kind of pop out a little bit. So that's fine. We'll stick to that. Next, let's do these tiles maybe. You can go to the material section under the library, and there's all these materials available to you. So there's marble and granite. Like, I'm not going to go through this whole process, but you can select any of these materials and swap them out easily. It's very quick. So for example, say you really want these I don't know, stack stones here, you can just drag them and it'll replace, but I'm not going to do any of that. I'm actually happy with these. I'm just going to change some of the properties of this material so that it kind of pops a little bit. So again, I'm happy with the scale. The roughness, I'm going to bring it down to about almost 0. And it's not metallic, it's a tile, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. And you can already see, like, that's the look we're going to get, and that's fine. Now, something to note, when you import as a hierarchy, a lot of the materials like for example, the white that we see in our model right now, the trims around the windows, the outlets, the baseboard here, um, there's usually a problem with this method because if you were to go and replace I'm just going to go back to this. If you were to replace the actual material here, it's going to replace it everywhere that it sees that material, which is a problem in itself. So you have to be very careful on how you edit the, oh man, this sucks, how to actually edit those materials. So I want to change this material on the hood to something more metallic, something more darker. But if I was to, oh, battery so keeps turning on for no reason. But if I were to do that, that might lead to a problem where wherever this material is being used, it's going to change it. So I only want to change it here. So how you do this is you actually have to change your applying mode to apply to object only. And then I'm actually going to come and pick metal. Maybe I'll pick chrome and I will just drop it on here. And you can see it only affected this material and nothing else. So I'm happy with the settings. I'll just make it a bit more darker. And we'll come down here and we'll really, everything is pretty good in terms of metallic. The roughness is 0. So we're pretty good with, I'm pretty happy with the way this material is. Okay, now we're going to go to the dropper. And since we're going to be using this material, I am literally just going to drag this material and also apply it to the fridge on the side just to make things a bit better. And we're good with that. And maybe we'll use the same material here on the on this faucet as well. And I think just drag it on and we've got it. Perfect. So that looks good. Now, how do you actually, so I'm actually pretty happy with the way the scene is actually looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around, change some of the materials for my scene, like the trims you see, the ceiling, and then we'll talk lighting next. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've applied some materials to my cabinets, my ceiling. I applied a wall paint to my walls, changed my board and batten outside to a bit of a darker color, and added some roughness, reduce some roughness to it, and everything else I've honestly just kept the same. I've changed the stone and everything else remains the same. I added a little bit of more coloring to my wooden beams, posts and beams actually, and then changed the flooring as well a little bit, but other than that, nothing really changed. Everything is exactly the same. All right, now we're going to talk lighting in this specific section of the video. Lighting is probably the most important part when it comes to rendering, obviously, right? And it requires two things, interior lighting as well as exterior lighting, right? So for our scenario here, I always recommend first, whatever lights you have, replace them with neon. So search neon in Twinmotion and you'll get all of these. So just use neon 1, and what you want to do is I'm going to quit the media mode for a sec and go up and find one of these pot lights, because the material is going to be the same no matter because chief factor, when you're exporting, the material for this light is going to be the same for all the lights. So just bring the neon and drop it right there and change the glow to like maybe 350 500 units, and go back to your, you might actually have to go a bit higher for the intensity of these guys, just so that you get a bit of a glow out of them. So maybe, but you don't want to overdo it so that you get like crazy amount of lighting in your scene either. So keep it somewhat, reasonable. So a 2000 I think is okay. That'll just replace the material with that, and you will see what that actually looks like. And then the other material I want to change is this thing right here. I want it to actually just be black. Not black, sorry. I actually want it to be glass. So we'll just use clear glass and we'll apply it there. So perfect. And again, this material right here now should have the glow. So maybe we'll use 3000 just so that there's a little bit more of a glow here. Now, other thing that you can add is actual lighting. So like this is artificial lighting that you could bring in. So you could do a spotlight, you could do omnidirectional light. So in my case, I'll maybe just use omnidirectional light just to keep things a bit more simpler. Um, and you can kind of gauge where it needs to go, and we'll just put it here. And I'm going to give it 6500K to make it white light. And if we quit the media module, and then we can place it right there. And then I'm just going to shift select, move it over here, hit OK. And we're just going to keep moving this. Don't know why it doesn't want to go where I'm telling it to move. Anyways, this one needs to go here. So perfect. And then we'll use spotlight for these two right here. And I'm gonna just use the shift select to make another instance of it. And the intensity, I want it to just be like 5 meters. These are not meant to blow up our scene. The intensity for this one, again, we'll use maybe 5 meters again. And then let's go back to our scene. So this is what it looks like right now. So if I hit R, that'll turn the path tracer on. I'm going to pause just for a second and then let it load to show you guys what it currently will look like with this setting. So I just had to go to low settings because it was taking forever, quite honestly. So I don't have the best computer. But clearly, even in this view, you can see these are a little bit too strong. So I would just go back into the material editor, and I would, like I'm going to turn off the path tracer. You can do that by just hitting R on your keyboard. It's a shortcut. But I would just say, sorry, just lagging a little bit. So we'll just go down into our model again, into the scene, move up, and I will select this material again. And I'm just going to change this to like 2200 units just so that it maintains the whiteness but doesn't overpower our scene. So if I hit R again, you can see it's just going to quickly render something for us really quickly here in real time. So yeah, that looks a little bit better. And obviously with the trees outside and everything, once we set up our vegetation, it's going to look a little different. So I think we're good. So that's how you go about setting up interior lighting at least. And there's other ways you could do it. You could just put an area light as well, or you could put an area light outside the window to bring more lighting in. There's lots of different ways, but that's fine. So now on the exterior end, this is what we're looking at. I'm going to quit the media mode. We're going to focus on vegetation. How do we add some nice vegetation to this? Before we do that, let's go ahead and change some of these materials. So we've got concrete. And I think we have much better materials available to us. So bare concrete, I'm just going to bring that here, and I'm going to increase its roughness. It's already at 100%, so that's great. And we'll just change the scale to maybe say a 2.5. And this is gravel, so for that you go to ground, man-made, pick one of these asphalts and stuff, or you could just stick to nature and pick something that makes more sense, like gravel, for example. That looks better. I'll just change the scale to maybe 1.5, so it's a little bit bigger. There we go, perfect. All right, so now the focus is we should actually be trying to figure out a way, and I'm actually just gonna add this grass for as well here. We want to cover our horizon. So with that, we want to maybe plant some bushes and flowers and dandelions and some weed and stuff like that, just to add some realism to our exterior rendering, and then maybe a couple of trees around the perimeter. And this is what I mean when you go to post-processing, you can really get AI to do some of the heavy lifting for us on that end of it. So I'm going to quickly maybe just show you how you would go about adding some vegetation, and then I'll pause and I'll create my exterior scene, and then I'll show you what that would look like. So how to add bushes, shrubs, and stuff of that sort. You want to hit the populate button down here and hit place. This is the method I like to use, and I just use a paint tool, and I'm gonna maybe leave this at like 60 inches. So the circle is a bit small and more workable. And then you just want to go into library, vegetation, bushes. So maybe I'll pick this bush right here, and when you click on it, you can choose the density. So maybe I want 60% for the bush. Uh, Go to grass and flowers. We'll add some dry wild grass here as well. And density we'll do 80%. And then we'll add some clovers. We'll add some weeds, and we'll add some tall grass as well, just for some realism. And then we can add some daisies as well as some yarrows. This is going to get very heavy, so uh, keep stay with me here. I might lag a little bit because of the sheer amount of stuff. You can come and mess around with the densities, and yeah. So once you're happy with this, then you want to shift select everything, and then basically hit the paintbrush, and you can start painting some of this stuff. So I'm just gonna come in here and start literally doing some of this stuff. And again, go back to your view because you don't want to waste time putting stuff in other locations that are not even going to show up, right? So I'm going to Control Z and just really kind of line up here. And obviously this is not right. Let's just stick to this and add some here, because all of this is going to show up on our scene. So we'll just keep adding some of the stuff. Back to your image. I think this looks good, as we can kind of apply this same material to outside. So we'll just do that here. And you can see we can take this material, apply here, and we've pretty much got an infinite amount of grass now. So I'm happy with this look right now. So we'll just update this view, and that's that. And now we're going to do the same thing with populate, but now we're just going to add a couple of trees around our building. Okay, so I went ahead and I added a couple of trees. So if we quit media mode, you can see because my camera is placed over here, I didn't go ahead and create like a crazy amount of trees and vegetation around. Just a couple of trees, some shrubs, and some flowers here, and same thing on this side as well. Now, if I could just as easily do something like this, like a low shot of this, and yeah, maybe I'll do this just to see what this looks like. Yeah, let's do that. And yeah, so we're pretty much done at this point, and we can get these renders out and see what kind of results we get. The one thing I did forget was I forgot to add some lighting on the outside, so I'm just going to go do that, and then we will move on to render, and I will show you what those look like in the final rendering. All right, so I think I'm happy with the way both these scenes are set up right now, and for the sake of this tutorial getting way too long, I just want to wrap things up a little bit here. I feel like the video is getting a bit longer. I'll probably make another video again of a different model maybe, and show even how maybe I modeled, maybe split it into a series or something. But for this one, I think I'm happy with the way everything is sort of looking now. So our next step is literally, I'm going to turn off the path trace, so don't waste time here. And we're actually just going to go to export, and we are going to go in the image. We're going to select both our images, and PNG is fine, and we're going to hit start export. We'll select the folder, and now we just have to wait for it to export. Once it's exported, I will show you the final renderings that we got out of Twinmotion, and then we'll head over to AI to see what it can do for us. All right, so here are our final renderings that I got from Twinmotion after our export. Keep in mind, I did change some of the cabinet materials just so that it pops a little bit more. The reddish wood wasn't doing it for me, honestly. So pretty happy with the way this turned out. And then for the exterior rendering also, pretty happy. I don't have one of the best GPUs. It's actually a pretty outdated GPU graphics card that I'm using, but I think even while using that, the level of detail I'm getting here is pretty amazing, to be honest. And then now I'm going to take these two images and I'm going to be using AI to super enhance the materials and the look of it really. So the prompt is, and I'm just going to verbally say it so you guys can write it down, do whatever you want, and maybe I'll drop it down in the description as well, is create realistic HDRI photo rendering. Don't change any image details. Don't move or modify any features. Don't crop image or change horizontal aspect ratio. Keep colors the same for me. Make the rendering super photorealistic with realistic lighting, PBR materials, and natural shadows. So that's the AI prompt that I used to generate all my AI enhanced post-processing images that you will see next on the screen. With that, I will leave you guys. This video has gotten pretty long already. Please, if you learned something and you stuck around till the end, comment, like, and you might as well subscribe at this point, right? Thank you, and stay tuned for more tutorials and more rendering videos.